Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. First player we're going to take a look at is Charlie Brown Jr. And if you paid attention, ladies and gentlemen, to the Knicks Summer League, Charlie Brown Jr. was the best player. And he was not the player that I expected to be the best player on the Summer League roster, but he was by far the best player on the Knicks Summer League roster. 6'6", 199 pounds. He's 26 years old. He went to St. Joseph's, so it's not Villanova, right? But he's from that area, which means, you know, these guys, Jalen Brunson, who else we talking about here? Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. You know, those guys, they know who Charlie Brown is because, you know, he's been in the area. So I'm sure they're familiar with Charlie Brown. 6'6". He's a shooting guard. Can he play some small forward? I don't know. But he's got some accolades to go with him. 19.8 points, 2 assists, and 6.3 rebounds during the Knicks Summer League, ladies and gentlemen. Easily made him the best player on the Summer League team. He was the guy that the Knicks were going to. All right, he has an Exhibit 10 contract, so basically a training camp contract, but it does give the Knicks the right to keep him on the Westchester Knicks. All right, he's played a lot of basketball. Right? He played for the College Park Skyhawks, the affiliate for the Atlanta Hawks. He played for the Iowa Wolves, the Delaware Blue Coats. He played for the Mavericks. He won a championship with the Delaware Blue Coats. All right, he's the FIBA 3-on-3 AmeriCup champion, A champion. He was the FIBA 3-on-3 AmeriCup MVP. In 2019, he was the second team All-Atlantic 10. All right. I don't know if there's a spot for him, to be honest with you, on the New York Knicks. Definitely on the Westchester Knicks, but on the New York Knicks, is there really a spot for Charlie Brown Jr.? I don't know. Listen, the Knicks signed Ryan Arcidiacono to an Exhibit 9 deal, right? You know, they're familiar with him. He's friends with Jalen Brunson and all of those guys. So, you know, he might be the guy that you got to beat out for that 15th roster spot. You know, we'll talk about him in a little bit. But, you know, Charlie Brown Jr., I think he made a case for himself during the Knicks Summer League. I think he made a big case for himself. And if you look at the possibility of the Knicks using R.J. Barrett as a power forward sometimes in that second unit, Charlie Brown may become a factor if he's ever, you know, if he's able to maybe move into a two-way or snag one of those roster spots. But I got my man Ron here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to bring him into the building. Ron, what's poppin' with you, brother? How you feeling?
Can't complain. I'm feeling good. How you, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Bracing for some weather over the next couple of days here. But other than that, I can't complain.
I miss those days.
I can't complain.
I mean, it sounds crazy. I don't really miss like having weather issues, but I just miss having weather issues someplace other than New York. It's different. You know, it's different.
Yeah, I hear you. So what's your thoughts on Charlie Brown?
I like him. I like his overall game and what he can do out there. I think he's a very interesting player because he's got a little bit of a dynamic thing to his scoring ability. Like he can score from different levels on the court. I think he plays some defense. Mm-hmm. I like that he already has NBA experience by playing like with the Sixers. It's really tough when you try to look at any of these players, especially young players, in a Tom Thibodeau team,
right?
Because you just never know exactly how he views these guys and how he intends to possibly give them an opportunity to make their way into the rotation somehow. Because it's just like it's tough. You already know how he's looking at things, but I am starting to look at things a little different, Sim. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to say I'm understanding that maybe I've never looked at it this way before, but a couple days ago, something triggered. I don't know if it was Steph's show or one of these shows, and I just started to think, oh yeah, it was Steph's show. I think Jeff Clafter said it. Started to think about guys like Charlie Brown and Ryan Arcidiacono, and I'm like, maybe Thibodeau is really positioning this team to have good practice guys that can push some of these guys on the court that are
Mm-hmm.
starting. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you might say, okay, how do you push? And I don't want to get too long-winded with it, but like, even though Ryan Arcidiacono is not a starter, he's probably not even a great like bench player, as far as his role goes. But when he's out there on the court, he can play some decent defense,
Right.
and he can knock it down.
Right.
So, the Knicks struggle at perimeter defense for the three. Ryan can knock it down from out there. So him being out there and jacking up the shots probably does help the other guys on the team work on their defense. So I'm just thinking about it like that. And I think Charlie Brown pushes the envelope when it comes to that stuff because he's versatile.
Right. No, that definitely makes sense. Guys that can hoop, are always going to help your team get better. Right, because you got to have those practice guys that are really gonna, when you're preparing for another team, you can say, okay, you're Kawhi Leonard today. You know what I'm saying? And have that player do Kawhi Leonard stuff. So you have someone who's capable of scoring, capable of playing defense, at an adequate level, which is going to make the Knicks players have to respect them at least and be able to, try to execute whatever it is that Tom Thibodeau's asking for. Of course, those guys are looking and hoping that they can land a roster spot at some point. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which is difficult, without a doubt, but that means they're working hard, right? They're battling. You know what I mean? They're trying to show Tom Thibodeau, hey, I'm better than R.J. Barrett. I'm better than Julius Randle or whoever it is that you have out there on the floor. Or if I'm not better, I can at least give them guys a breather and play at a certain level for a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? So, a guy like Charlie Brown, I think I just don't see where there would really be a spot for him on this team. I do think the Knicks need another long wing, though.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a possibility there. Backup power forward, I would think is going to be the priority. You know what I'm saying? I would think it's going to be the priority, but you never know. Sometimes you're just going to go with the best talent that's out there. You know what I mean? Whether depending on what they need. Is he a young guy that they're going to keep in the wings to try to develop for later? He's 26 years old. I'm sure they'll have him on the Westchester Knicks, but how much are they really going to put into this guy?
Right.
I don't think much,
no,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Sam, like just looking at his NBA career or lack thereof. I mean, he's came in the league in 2019, and he's only played 41 games total. I think the most he's played is 19 games with the 76ers, and he was averaging like eight and a half minutes. So he never really got a real good shot. I mean, one year he played 9 games with the Thunder, and he was averaging around 17 minutes per game. He was averaging 4.4 points. So it's kind of like I hate that it's the case. Like we see a guy in the summer league and they look good, and then you're like, oh, and he's got NBA experience. So you're like, okay, maybe he could. But you know what? On the NBA level, them numbers don't really translate that great.
They don't.
And he's not a good shooter either.
They don't.
Like from 3-point line, like 11%, 23%, 33%, 21% for his career. Like, so I don't know. It's not boding well for Charlie Brown on the Knicks. I don't know.
And of course, there's a reason why these guys haven't made it to the league yet, right? There's a reason they haven't made it to the league yet. and part of it is because they, just aren't as good. Maybe not as talented, aren't as good. Here's the hope. Here's the hope for a guy like Charlie Brown. The hope is that with him being 26 years old, he's entering his prime, right? And the hope is that his prime is good enough to be a competent NBA player, an NBA player that can give you minutes, right? Or give you some production. You know what I mean? And his prime may only last till he's 30. But maybe during that time, while he's in his prime, he's giving you 10 or 12 points a game, and then he takes a downslide. So I think, that's kind of the hope. All right, he's 26 years old. Maybe he's entering that stage where he can produce in the league for a certain amount of time. Everyone's prime is at a different level of play, right? Some people's prime is, all world. Some people's prime is all-star. Some people's prime is starter. Some people's prime is competent bench player. Some people's prime will never reach the NBA. You know what I mean? But if you can catch a guy at the right time, maybe he can be a contributor for a couple of years to your team. And maybe I think that's what they could be looking for, or just hoping that they see with Charlie Brown Jr. I mean, a guy that could possibly contribute. We will see. Next guy up the bat, Dwayne Washington Jr. Small guy. The Knicks got a lot of those. And I'm starting to really believe that Tom Thibodeau likes these small guys. These tough, small, tough guys that can cause trouble, wreak havoc. All right, he's 6'2", 197 pounds. He's 23 years old. Played for Ohio State, but he's from Germany. All right. Last year with the Westchester Knicks, he played 4 games with the Westchester Knicks last year. He gave you 20.8 points per game, 3.5 assists, and 2 rebounds in those 4 games. All right. He played for the Phoenix Suns in 22-23. Of course, he played for the Westchester Knicks in 22-23 as well. He played for the Fort Wayne Mad Ants as well as the Indiana Pacers. And he, in 2021, college, 3rd team All Big Ten, right? Went undrafted. I don't know. I guess my question first is, how many of these 6'2" guys do we need? Are we trying out? Like, what is the deal? I asked that question when I did a Ryan Archidiacono video, and I asked the same question. Like, how many of these guys do we need? We need wings. What's your thoughts? I don't know. I guess just that. What's your thoughts on that right there? These 6'2" guys.
I think it's crazy. I think it's wild to me that you're telling me with all of these different players in the league, with the disparaging height differences that some of these other teams, and especially when it comes to the Knicks, a lot of times, we get that whole, hey man, Knicks struggle against this team, Knicks struggle against Orlando, Knicks struggle against. A lot of times it has to do with the height disparity.
Yeah.
Like, these guys got length, and we don't have that on the Knicks. So to me, it's mind-boggling that we continue to go for smaller players. I don't get it. And it's not like you can't tell me that, okay, we're going for smaller players, but their overall game is just that great. Like, it's better than these other guys. So it doesn't matter. Like, sometimes you just talent is talent. No, right. That's not the type of guys we getting. We just getting fringe guys that can play a role if they're even lucky to be able to play a role. So I'm really confused, Sim. I don't know what they're doing with that. I don't know if they're allergic to height. I don't know what's happening. We definitely are not, our talent evaluation and scouting when it comes to finding that type of guy has been lacking. But it shouldn't be too crazy because we haven't been able to get a point guard here until Jalen Brunson. Like, we struggled to get a point guard here. Kimba might have been the answer, but he was kind of past his prime. But we just don't value certain positions. I guess we didn't value the point guard position over the years, and we don't value that 6'6" to 6'8" type height at the
Wing.
small forward
Right.
position.
Right. Right. And it seems we don't. And I mean, when we look at look at the guards that Kemba Walker, small guard, right? Jalen Brunson, small guard. And, nothing against Jalen Brunson. He's great. But, the fact is he's a small guard. Deuce McBride, small guard, right? This guy here, Dwayne Washington Jr., small guard. Emmanuel Quickly, small guard. I mean, Quentin Grimes is 6'5", but, he's kind of in between that small guard and wing situation. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I think the Knicks, I don't know. I can only believe that these are Tom Thibodeau type of players, and this is what he likes, and this is how he feels he can attack. I don't mind it. I do think small guards can bring you trouble. That guards in the 6'2" to 6'4" range, I think they can be trouble for you. But you got to have some wings out there. You know what I mean? You really do. In today's NBA, you got to have wings out there. I don't know. I've watched him play a little bit, and he's tough. He can be tough. He may be able to produce. He's only 23 years old. He may be able to produce in the league one day. You know what I mean? He's a decent defender. He seems to have that gritty type of demeanor about him. You know what I mean? He can put the ball on the floor. He can shoot it from three. So he can do a lot of things out there. And then coming from a place like, Phoenix, he played in Phoenix. You know what I mean? I think you value guys who have played in good organizations and have played with a lot of talent, because they definitely pick some things up. But again, I asked the question, where is he going to fit on this basketball team? Unless you're preparing for Deuce McBride, not this season, but maybe next season to be gone. Preparing for Emmanuel Quickly to, no longer be on the team. So you may be looking to see which one of these small guards can take his position. Because if you listen to the, right now it seems like the Knicks and Emmanuel Quickly's team, they haven't really discussed or had major conversations about an extension. So I'm not expecting an extension to come within the next 30 days. I mean, I kind of felt that it was going to go to, he was going to have to go to restricted free agency anyway. I felt like, I just don't know if they have a grip on his value right now. So
Right.
I think going to restricted free agency might be best for everybody. Might be best
Makes
for
sense.
everybody. So having a guy like Dwayne Washington Jr. in the fold, he played for Westchester last year. Because he's an Exhibit 10 player, the Knicks have his rights, for Westchester. He can get in, learn the system, and if Emmanuel Quickly is traded or whatever, you got a guy that you can possibly plug in. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that I can think of. I don't know. What do you think about this guy here and his chances of ever playing with the New York Knicks?
Dwayne Washington?
Dwayne Washington, yeah. Because, I just feel like when you bring guys into training camp, obviously I want to bring, like you said, we bring guys in that's going to push your roster guys. But I also want to bring somebody in that has a little bit of potential and that at least somebody that you're thinking like, maybe, let's see what this guy can do. Maybe he can be a contributor one day. You would think that that's where the mindset is, not just putting guys out there on the floor.
Right. Yeah, I think there's definitely it's so tough, man. It's a chance that he might be someone that can contribute, or at least like Tibbs might say, he's a good guy to have on the bench, or if something happens, we can plug him in.
Right.
I just don't. It's once again, it goes back to that whole thing. with his shortened rotation, and then having it work the way he's so used to doing it and accustomed to doing it,
Hmm.
it's hard to say that he will value anybody other than the top 10, 11 guys.
Oh, right.
It's hard,
Yeah.
it's really hard to say. And I just don't know. The other thing is, like, he's on an Exhibit 10 contract.
Exhibit 10. Yeah.
Right. The other thing is, like, in the past, the Knicks, at least Tom Thibodeau Knicks, haven't really valued these Exhibit 10 guys. Like, I don't, so I don't know.
Half of the Exhibit 10 guys that the Knicks signed don't make it to training camp.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they don't even last a month sometimes. I think there was one guy last year that got picked up, and like yesterday, and then tomorrow he was gone. Like, I'm like, damn, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that happens
I
a lot.
really don't
Yeah.
know.
All right, because I had a buddy who, played pro ball, and he went with the Pacers, and he was there for, I don't know how many months it was, certain amount of months, and he got like $25,000-$30,000, and he was there for like a week.
Mm.
It wasn't a couple of months. It was like a week or 2 weeks, a few weeks or whatever, and he just worked out with him. And maybe this is what happens with these Exhibit 10 guys. And then the next thing you know, he was home, and that was that. So, maybe there's some things that happen that we just aren't privy to, when it comes to these guys working out for the teams. And then they see, you know what? I'm not seeing this. I'm not liking this. I'm not liking that. Let's bring Charlie Brown Jr. into training camp instead.
Right.
You know what I mean? The tough part, or maybe sometimes there could be, they're running tests on whatever type of injury they had. It's not getting any better. No, we're not gonna pay this guy to come into camp and he's not getting better.
Right.
I think things like that go down, and then of course, what I mean? Oh yeah, his agent is so and so and so. So let's we're gonna look out for him. Now, I think some things like that go on. This next guy. Go ahead.
And by the way, I don't think I even answered your question. But in fairness to Dwayne Washington Jr., he actually has put up some numbers in the NBA. So he looks like he has some game that translates.
Mhm.
So if there was a guy, I would say maybe he has a chance to be on the squad and be that guy. To actually, he might be the guy that replaces Deuce.
Could be. He could be. I mean, he would clearly be, Deuce when you watch him play. We don't know what he's going to look like this year. When you watch him play, he's always a little tentative. He's been like that since he's been on the team. Always a little bit tentative. You know what I'm saying? So I could see it. I could see them looking for someone who's more confident, who's ready to produce a little bit more. I guess we'll see. And we'll see how Deuce looks this year. You know what I mean? We'll see how Deuce looks this year. Now, this next guy, Ryan Arcidiacono. All right. He's been with the squad. He's on an Exhibit 9 contract. Basically the same thing as an Exhibit 10, except I think if he gets hurt, the Knicks don't have to keep him around if he gets hurt.
And I think Ryan is a really good locker room guy. I think the guys on the team really do like him. But I think the Knicks are trying to find whatever they can to continue to build the current chemistry. And Ryan has been a part of that chemistry. And now you're bringing in Dante DiVincenzo, who has the internal chemistry from college with these guys. And I think they're just trying to replicate whatever good juju that team and that camaraderie had. And hopefully it spills off on the rest of the team, which could be a little bit of an indictment on what they think the mindset and maybe the thought process is for some of the guys we already got. Maybe these Villanova boys got it right. They may not all have the same talent level, but they know how to play the game. They got the right mindset. So maybe that's what they're trying to do. I don't mind too much with Ryan. I don't think he minds. I think he's just happy to be involved on a team with his brothers. I think he doesn't care at all. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I think Ryan is only going to be here probably for this year because I think he's on a specific contract that we can only give him a 1 year of that specific contract, or we have to give him something of greater value. And I just don't think the Knicks really have him in those long-term plans unless we make some moves. But I do like the fact that, to your point, like Ryan is not a bum. He just doesn't have the necessarily all-around game that you want to have out there consistently for many minutes. But if you put him out there, he's going to play and do something. He's not going to really hurt you as much as you might think.
Right.
He knows how to play. Just the NBA game is just a little different. Like it's faster. Guys are just better and more athletic, and sometimes that's tough for guys.
Yeah. And I guess the fact that he's buddy with Jalen Brunson might keep him a job for a while.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. So I guess my question is this: do you think the Knicks, even if they find somebody, we got a couple other guys we're going to talk about, two-way guys. If they find one of these two-way guys, well, I guess with the two-way guys, you don't really have to put them on the regular roster, right? Because they're two-way players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you can bring them up for a certain amount of games. So if somebody else, Charlie Brown Jr., really, really plays well, will the Knicks keep him because of his relationship with Jalen Brunson? Or will they move on and say, you know what? Or do they just throw him in Westchester? I mean, Ryan, he wants to play. He wants to try to take his shot in the league. He's 29 years old. It's running out for him. This is what we were talking about. He should be in his prime. If this is his prime years, you really don't have a future in the league if this is your prime years.
It's true.
So
and I don't think if Ryan has to go to Westchester, I don't think he's playing. Like, I think he's out. Yeah, I just don't. I don't see it.
I mean, unless he can't find a spot anyplace else, and that's the only money he can get. I'm sure he could probably go play overseas somewhere, though.
So when it comes to that, my whole thing is it still goes back to where you are positioned. Now, he may not technically on the totem pole. Maybe he isn't looked at as the 15th man on the roster. To me, he is, but maybe he's not. Maybe you could say he's a little higher up, just pecking order. Maybe he's 13 and Charlie Brown is 14 and somebody else is 15. Who knows? But I just feel like Ryan is that one guy that you don't got to worry about. Like, he's just there. And if you decide to try to bring somebody else in and give up that spot that he's taking right now, it really doesn't make a difference on a Tom Thibodeau team. Another coach, maybe. Mm-hmm. Tom Thibodeau team, we are lucky if the 12th man on the team sees minutes. So, I don't. It's tough. To me, like, I know, and a lot of Knicks fans are really upset about the Ryan move. Like, again, with this guy that's not going to do any, he's not going to play. So you're basically wasting a spot. But in a Tom Thibodeau offense or defense, whatever you want to call it, rotation, it doesn't really matter that much. Like, wouldn't you rather if I know that this is what I'm going to equate it to right here. If Ryan wasn't here and they said, you know what, Ryan said something happened with Ryan, he can't be a part of the Knicks, he's going to step away from the game, and the Knicks are signing Theo Pinson, you're going to see all types of Knicks clapping it up because they know what Theo Pinson meant to the team in his role.
Right.
So that it's just, it's no difference.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll say this: he can play defense. He can shoot the ball. So that does at least give them a practice player that can battle a little bit and add something to practice, make the team have to work. The roster guys, make them have to work, and maybe just, put a little bit of fear into a guy like Deuce.
Right. Oh, and Sam, when was the last time Ryan was a Knick?
Last season. I
but early last season, right?
Early last season. I think he got traded to Portland. with
So
with
there,
with
there,
with Cam Reddish.
right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So there's the thing, like you kind of think could, and I'm not saying Ryan alone, but if Ryan was still with the Knicks, right, going into that playoff series with Miami, not
Hmm.
saying he could have helped them on the court. I'm saying, but going up against Ryan in practice and maybe another guy who could shoot Fournier, maybe, who light it up from outside and really kind of prepare the Knicks for what they were going to face with Miami. And they could have even used Ryan and Fournier in different scenarios to mimic what Miami was doing to them so they could prepare better for the next game in the series.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but I just see that there's ways he could have benefited them if he was still with them last year at that point.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know, man. Ryan Archie Diacono is back in the building. Villanova guy, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo. They only missing Mikal Bridges. I mean,
Yeah.
the other guy. They only missing him. Does it work? Does it work? Maybe that's the plan. Maybe that's the master plan. Hey, let's get all the buddies together. He's across the river. Let's get all the buddies together and make him wish that he was with the New York Knicks. Maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe
Listen,
maybe there's a mental part to the game.
Sim, if there was a way that somehow the Knicks could get Mikal Bridges without giving up the farm, right? Not too much. You're gonna just say, for example,
Mhm.
and then you could then figure out a way to get Donovan Mitchell here and have Brunson, have Bridges. I don't know. You keep one of these young guys, keep the core in place somehow, at least the starting core for some,
Yeah.
for the
Right.
most part.
Yeah.
I mean, the Knicks might be something, man. That would be something.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Next guy I want to talk about, Jalen Martin. Now, here's a guy that I'm excited about.
I like him.
I'm excited about him. You know what I mean? Right? 19 years old. Played for Overtime Elite. He played for the Young Dreamers, Overtime Elite. I think he can be a good NBA player one day. You know what I mean? He has some ability. He's got a lot to learn, but he has some ability. This is the type of guy. This is the type of guy that you grow in Westchester, right? You keep him around, you help him develop, and see what he becomes. In a couple of years, play with the Westchester Knicks for a couple of years, and then see what he becomes, and maybe he's a guy that you can, that can take one of those wing positions. What are your thoughts on Jalen Martin? And by the way, he averaged 14 points, 1.4 assists, and 5.9 rebounds in summer league.
Yeah. Out of all the guys that we've talked about, as much as I think Dwayne Washington has a shot and he could take Deuce's spot, I think Jalen Martin is the best possible young player, two-way contract guy that we got that might be able to stay on this team long term, especially if we do decide to make a trade or make a move. He's a guy who might get pushed up to the next level. That could really benefit from something like that. I like his overall game. I think he's being taught by someone who understands NBA basketball, and he obviously, Charlie Waters and Nick, so he understands how the Knicks work. It's a different regime now,
Mhm.
but still, I think he's been groomed the right way. He's still very raw. We saw that in the summer league,
Right.
but I think that he's someone that can develop and turn into something pretty special because he shows you glimpses. See, that's the thing. And I'm not to take any shots at Cam Reddish, but with Cam, you always saw potential, right?
Right.
But he never really hit you with all of that potential at one moment. And
Right.
and when he did, he started to get hurt. It
Mhm.
was always that thing. Jalen shows you glimpses of stuff, and he's got the youth and that rawness on his side. So eventually, you could see him putting it all together.
Yeah.
So I like this player the most out of all of the young prospects that we gave these exhibit 10 or two-way contracts to. And I think that he definitely could turn into something special. And he's got the two-way player ability. He plays
Right.
some solid defense.
Right.
He can be something that and 6'6" too. Of course, we still can't find that 6'7", 6'8" type guy, but
Maybe he
six
grows.
six is not too bad. Yeah, that's true.
Maybe
He's young
he's
enough that he can
19.
still grow.
Yeah, maybe we get lucky and
Yeah,
he grows a little bit, you know? And
that's
I
true.
like the fact, you brought up Cam Reddish, right? And like Cam Reddish is a guy that I feel basketball wise, I'm not speaking like character wise, but basketball wise, maybe just needed some guidance in the way that he approached the game,
Mhm.
right? Um, Jalen Martin, I feel, is coming from an organization. I don't know how much people know about Overtime Elite, but he's coming from an organization that really does put an emphasis on work ethic as well as character. And what the organization is about. That's what they're about, right? Bringing these young guys in, guys that may not want to go to college, so on and so forth. Bringing them in and giving them training in social skills, media training, financial literacy, right? So that they understand how to take care of their money. And they get paid for playing with Overtime Elite. Okay.
Mhm.
Now they also have Overtime Elite has like a scholarship program too, where you don't get paid, you get a scholarship to be part of the program. Okay. So this way you can still go to college if you want to. All right. So they have a few different types of programs. It's a good program. Seems like it's a really good program. And this is where I like the fact that he's coming through this program. He was a highly, highly touted high school player. You know what I mean? And I do think that the Knicks could have, they could have, a diamond in the rough. And I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star or nothing like that, but I think they could have a diamond in the rough with this kid. And he end up being, in a couple of years, end up being a roster player. A guy that's actually in the lineup, giving you some production, especially if you've got to trade away some pieces to bring in whoever. This is where a guy like Jalen Martin could really, really come in to be a big piece of your organization if he develops the
Mhm.
way that we hope he can develop. You know what I mean? And then, of course, this just goes back to the Knicks developmental program. How are they developing guys when they're with the Westchester Knicks? You know what I mean? I know with Fizdale, they were like, oh, we got this super duper developmental plan, that they bragged about, and we never really seen the fruits of it. I think this current Knicks regime has a better idea on how to develop players. You know what I'm saying? So I think that I'm excited about him. I'm really excited about Jalen Martin and the possibilities that he might bring to this team. Do you think, because he's on a two-way contract, right? The Knicks can bring him up for a certain amount of games. Do you think he'll get a chance to play in any regular season games for the Knicks, because he is on a two-way?
Mm, honestly, no.
No.
I don't like. Okay, no, I don't want to say no because there is a slight possibility that
Mm-hmm.
maybe he gets a little run in one of the preseason games.
Okay.
They might give him a little burn in one of the preseason games as they're still filling out things, getting guys into shape and stuff. Um, but throughout like the regular season, I don't know. I don't think so because if you look at a guy who was on a two-way contract with us for a couple of years, and Deuce barely got an opportunity to show what he can do, and he already understood Tom Thibodeau's system, and he's a Tom Thibodeau guy.
All right.
So I find it very difficult to see if a Jalen Martin would be able to get that. The only thing that could really change that is if one of these guys on the team just really struggles out the gate, like poor. I mean, really poorly defensively. Where Thibodeau is like fed up. Like I need to see something different. Maybe putting this kid in for a little bit is going to wake this guy up and let him know. Listen, somebody's hunting for your spot. I don't know, but I don't see any of the Knicks running into those type of problems. Even the guys who are not consistent, I don't see them being that bad for Thibodeau to go down the bench and say, Jalen, come on.
Right.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
So I would hope, but I do think that I think they will use him in me saying that, like how they did with Deuce. I think he'll just be going back and forth between Westchester and the Knicks, and he'll have his moments on the bench where he'll get to see them run the basketball game, the NBA game, and I
Hmm.
also think they'll use him occasionally, in practice, so he can kind of get run there and give him an opportunity to see if he can push certain guys, and then also open up Thibodeau's eyes. So, but I don't really see him getting a lot of burn at all.
Yeah. 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 I don't see him getting burned. The only way I see him possibly playing is if the Knicks get, some injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
there may be, and then of course that's going to depend on um, who gets injured. Right.
Right.
And there may be some other guys on these two-way contracts that have already played in the NBA that would get burned before he would, or get a chance before he would, depending on the positions. Now, if he just goes ham for Westchester, then of course, you got to look that way and see what it is that he could do if he just goes crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the Knicks suffer injuries. Then of course you got to look that way. But he's a guy that, he's going to be hopefully he's a good stash guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because, honestly speaking, if the Knicks would have picked up a draft pick, that wasn't going to play anyway. Right? Rosters, too many guys on the roster. He wasn't going to play anyway. So he's a nice young guy to stash away and see if he can become something. See if he can become something. But I'm excited about him. Really excited about him. Next guy, Nathan Knight. Now, here's where there's maybe some potential. It's forward/center, 6'8". I've seen him listed at 6'10" on some other publications. 253 pounds, 26 years old. He went to a very small school. All right, it's NBA career stats. William and Mary, small school. His NBA stats, career stats: 3.7 points per game, 2 rebounds, 0.4 assists per game. Of course, he signed to a two-way contract with the New York Knicks. He's played for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's played with the Iowa Wolves, which is the Timberwolves' G League team, and then he played for the Atlanta Hawks as well. All right. He's got, a few accolades to his name. Lou Henson Award. Not exactly sure what that award is, but it's an award. I didn't get a chance to look it up. I was rushing trying to get on the show. CAA Player of the Year. That's his college conference. 2020 CAA Defensive Player of the Year. 2020 First Team All CAA. 2019 First Team All CAA. 2018 Second Team All CAA. From 2018 to 2020, he was All Defensive Team, a 3-time All Defensive Team player. And then in 2017, he was the CAA All Rookie Team. So I think the Knicks feel that he's a guy that brings some intangibles that they like. As far as playing defense, guy that should be able to rebound the basketball, maybe even shoot the ball a little bit. Possibly a backup power forward for this team because the Knicks are going to need one. They're in need. Your thoughts on Nathan Knight, and do you think he can claim that backup power forward spot? We know Isaiah Roby is there. We know that the deal with him, but is he a guy that can challenge for that backup power forward spot?
Well, first off, the Lou Henson Award is a award that is given annually by collegeinsider.com to the most outstanding mid-major men's college basketball player in the NCAA Division 1 competition.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what that is. And I do think that Nathan Knight has enough in his tool chest that he can become the backup power forward for the Knicks. I think he can beat out Isaiah Roby. Do I think Isaiah Roby can win the competition between those two? Yes, but I think Nathan Knight has probably enough in his tool chest and how his style of game is kind of might fit the Knicks style of basketball a little better for what they don't have, like somebody who's a little tougher at the position, a little bit more aggressive. He is a guy who doesn't have big numbers, but he's played in his limited roles. But in those roles, he's got some highlights. So he's
Hmm.
shown some athleticism. He's shown some aggressiveness, and that's something that the Knicks don't really have in some of these positions as far as even being able to score a little bit outside of Julius, right? So I think he definitely can become that guy. I like his game. I like the makeup of him. He just seems like he's got a style of a traditional type power forward.
Right. Right.
I'm
Right.
surprised that he hasn't really caught on and got a little bit more run somewhere else. But you know where he's been, like even Minnesota is a tough place. Like they got a
Hmm.
lot of guys
Yeah.
over there.
They got a lot of
So I could
guys. Right.
understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And that's what I was going to ask. And even in Atlanta, looking at the time period that he was there,
that's another. Yeah.
2021, that's another
Yeah.
spot where there wasn't really a position for him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe with the Knicks, they, you know, he found a spot where there's actually the perfect position for him in that backup
Right.
power forward spot. And a guy that's been getting, not really getting a lot of minutes in the league, for him to grab 12, 13, 14 minutes per game, he'd love it. I mean, I think he would, he'd love it and excel, and then probably have a lot of people saying, play him, play him. Why are you taking him out? Play him. So he seems like a Tom Thibodeau type of player. We'll see. He seems like he would fit what the Knicks do as far as his style of play. You know what I mean? It is hard to. I do ask myself with all of these guys, well, why is it that they're not sticking anywhere? Because even if you're playing on a team like Minnesota, who has a lot of guys at that position, or Atlanta, who, they've got some guys at that position, you would think that there are teams in the league that at least have seen it and say, all right, there wasn't room for him to play there, but he can come to our team and possibly get 15 to 20 minutes per game, and we'll see how he can produce. So I guess I always just question that. Why haven't they caught on? There's got to be something there. You know what I mean? There's got to be something, a reason why they don't catch on, because he does seem to be a talented kid. You know what I mean? I do like the fact that with the position that he's in, he's from a mid-major school, very small school. A lot of times those guys have an edge on their shoulder already, right? They want to and feel like they have to prove, and always feel like, and because they feel like they have to prove that they belong in the league, they always feel like that. So, like, for their entire career, they're trying to prove to everybody that he belongs. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and I like having guys like that. You need
Yeah.
guys like that.
And it could be, Sim, that we already talked about these two particular spots. There's just a lot of competition at these spots, and the players in these spots are not bad. Like Atlanta was definitely full of bigs that just are
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
So it'd be hard to kind of supplant those guys. And then Minnesota, similar, maybe not as good, overall, having the same type of bigs, but I mean, look who he's around. I mean, and he was on the 2022-2023 team with
Hmm.
Gobert and with Towns, and I like it. That's tough, right? But the only thing I could think is maybe he just didn't. he has game, but he just didn't do enough to push any of these other guys
Right.
so that he can, really get into the coach's eye. Like, all right, he's the in Minnesota, he wasn't going to get it, right? But in Atlanta, maybe he was just still. I mean, that was his first year. Maybe he just wasn't
Yeah,
ready.
that was his first
Like
year.
maybe
Right.
maybe he's progressed more, but now he's behind these guys. Like he ain't getting no significant minutes being behind those two guys covering those two positions.
Right.
So it's just it's just bad. I think it may be bad location. If there's a guy to take a chance with, keeping in mind what we just said, he would be a good candidate. And let me tell you one other thing that Knicks fans probably ain't gonna like. But if he goes out there, right, and he plays a solid game and looks like a prototypical power forward, and he understands his assignments in Thibodeau's defense,
Mm-hmm.
and he's vocal and calls out stuff, I would not be surprised if Nathan Knight starts to get more minutes than Jericho Sims.
I was just going to ask about Jericho Sims. I was going to ask, because I think there's a lot of people. I just seen someone in the chat say, we've got Hartenstein. We can rock with Hartenstein. We don't need a backup power forward. And I think some people believe that Hartenstein could play power forward while Jericho Sims plays the center spot, right? They did it a little bit last year. I do feel like it's a little bit slow and clunky. Although Jericho Sims does have a little bit more speed and he's athletic. It makes sense. Hartenstein can shoot it from three, and I think it can work for limited minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can use it for limited minutes, but if you get a team that's if you get a team that's thin and fast from that position, from that power forward position or the center position, either way, then you can just change your lineup and maybe you go smaller, and one of those guys doesn't get as much playing time. You know what I mean? But it would be, I think, Jericho Sims who he's battling with. Well, Isaiah Roby too. Isaiah Roby's in that position. But, if he were to get a spot on the roster, although the Knicks don't have to because he's on a two-way, but this guy being someone who's played in the league, he's battling for a spot on the roster. That's his mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He would be battling with Jericho Sims. I think that's the only other person I can see him battling for because, well, I don't know how well he really shoots the three that way. So if I don't see that he's going to be a better passer than Isaiah Hartenstein. Or I don't know about his basketball IQ. You know what I mean? I do see it being Jericho Sims who he'd be battling for position-wise.
Yeah.
And
I don't think Sims is I still don't think Sims is held in high regard by Tom Thibodeau. I just don't there's something there. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I think.
Because let's just say this: we didn't really know that he was like when he got hurt. I didn't know he was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reason why we didn't know he was hurt is because there was no difference. Even when he was healthy, he wasn't playing. So, like,
right. I mean, he did start a couple games last year, though, didn't he? When Mitch was out,
he did. Yeah.
Right. He started a few games because Tom Thibodeau, I think, wanted to keep the continuity in the first unit. Wanted to keep the continuity so that you didn't have to make so many adjustments. Right. So he brought Jericho Sims, let Jericho Sims start because he does the same thing as Mitchell Robinson. Kept Isaiah Hartenstein off the bench. I don't know. Okay, well, let me ask you this before we move on. What would Jericho Sims have to do, do you think, to secure his spot?
I think Jericho needs to focus on what he can do well, right? I think he needs to continue to work on his footwork, his positioning, because he has great foot. I don't want to say great. He has better footwork than even, Mitchell Robinson. He moves his feet better. He just seems like he's a little bit more fluid when it comes to certain things. I don't want to give him that over Hartenstein because Hartenstein has stepped up his game and showed that he can do some things. So, but I will say he looks like he's got better footwork than Mitchell Robinson. I think at this point he's got more bounce than Mitchell Robinson. I think he's probably, and that's not saying much, but he's probably a better defensive rebounder than Mitchell Robinson. He's not the offensive rebounder he is. But I think what he would need to do is just continue to work on that footwork, that positioning, and continue to be a strong rebounder. But most importantly, this is the thing that I really think Jericho Sims needs to work on. Someone needs to teach Jericho Sims how to be in the proper position to block shots. He needs to learn. You can't be a guy who's 6'9", who can touch almost the top of the backboard, and you can't block shots. You average 1 block a game. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
So,
No, I feel you on that. And, that's a lot about timing. He doesn't have long arms like Mitchell Robinson, but he doesn't use his ability to jump. Obi was the same way when it came to blocking shots. I thought, though, last season, Obi began to kind of use his jumping ability to deflect shots or help, force people to change shots. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get it. I get it. Nathan Knight could be a guy to watch out for. I do agree. Think he can be a guy to watch out for. We'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to remind you, we still got those Knicks versus Cavs, November the 1st, $155 per ticket. You're not going to get, I promise you, you're not going to get a better price anyplace else. All right, you can go look it up if you want. Center court, sections 223, 224, 225. All right, I think, it's only, almost down to double digits in tickets remaining. So make sure that you get those tickets now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to switch over to the next guy that we're going to talk about, all right, which is Mr. Dylan Windler. Here's a guy that I think could be a sleeper in some ways. A wing player, 6'8", small forward, wing player, 196 pounds, 27 years old. Career stats, 3.3 points per game, 2.3 rebounds, 0.8 assists. But the guy can shoot it. And I think that's one of the reasons why he could be a sleeper to get some playing time on his roster. You know what I mean? Because he can shoot the basketball. He played for the Cleveland Cavaliers for 4 years, right? As well as the Cleveland Charge. 2019 first team All-OVC. 2018 first team All-OVC. Played for Belmont. Any ways that you see this guy, he's that wing we're talking about. 6'8" wing. He's that 6'8" wing that can shoot it. Any way that you see this guy play for the Knicks?
Yeah, I actually think that he could be a really solid bench player for the Knicks who can knock it down. He's 6'7". He's got good height. I think he can he can basically fill the Fournier role. If we're able to can move off of Fournier and get him up out of here, he can basically fill that Fournier role. And he's like the same height as Fournier. I think Fournier's 6'6", 6'7" anyway.
Right.
So he could fit right into that. I think he's got a little bit more versatility in his offensive game than Fournier has at this point in his career. Defensively, he's not the greatest defender, but he might be, because he's younger, he might be a little bit more active than Fournier. If the guy's healthy, I love Dylan Windler. I ain't gonna lie to you. I've always liked Dylan Windler since he came into the league, because at that point I was really into playing 2K a lot. My boys were always looking at college basketball. They would talk, oh, this kid is nice. This kid's got this. This kid, he'll light it up from anywhere. And they were talking about Dylan Windler, and I watched him, and I was like, yo, this kid he got a jump shot. And I really liked this game. And it kind of made me like follow the Cavs a little bit. Quiet as kept. Shh, don't say anything. But but the guy could not stay healthy.
Yeah.
Like you could just never see enough of him out there on the court. And so I'm like, with especially being with the Cavs, with all those players they got on the Cavs roster and finding places for the same type of guys at different positions, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not healthy, you never really get like you continuously behind.
Right.
And I think that's what kind of hurt him. He was
Right.
continuously behind. And when the Cavs actually made different moves to change their roster and who they had out there, Dylan Windler could have been that next guy to really get a substantial role. But when you can't count on the guy to be healthy enough to show you what he's got and to
That's it.
depend on him,
That's
it's
it.
tough.
That's it.
That's tough.
Yeah. He's 27 years old. Right. So he's another one of those guys that you hope is reaching his prime. You know what I mean? And the fact that, he's reaching his prime, maybe he's again, like we said about who was it? Whoever it was. Charlie Brown Jr., like we said about him. You hope that
Right.
he is at a point where he can be a serviceable NBA player. Right? Which I think he could have before, but like you said, injuries, right? But 27 years old, you hope he's hitting his prime for a couple of years and he can be a serviceable player and come in and produce. 27 years old, he shouldn't be, oh man, now back playing with in the G League. At this point, you should be in the league, but it happens in the NBA, right? But he can shoot the
Mhm.
ball. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit. I think he's got better footwork than Evan Fournier. I think he's got a quicker trigger. Even though Evan Fournier has a quick trigger, I still think he has even a little bit of a quicker trigger than Evan Fournier. You know what I mean? To me, he's a sleeper guy that I think could find his way possibly into the rotation for the Knicks. I think he's more athletic than Evan Fournier. Yeah, I think he's a sleeper guy. And if he can come in and shoot the ball, because I think the Knicks need shooters out there. We've seen it in the playoffs. They need guys that can knock it down quick. And if he can come out and prove that he can shoot the ball and knock it down, he may be able to find some time for this Knicks team. You know what I mean? Because at 6'8", maybe he can play some in that second unit because he's 6'8". When you can go with Hartenstein and Windler,
Ooh, sorry,
RJ
Sam.
Barrett.
You seen the handle right there with that step back? Okay.
Yeah, listen, he's got a little bit of game to him. He's got a little bit of game to him. You know what I'm saying? So, I got some hope. I got some hope that he can come into training camp, shoot the ball well. Hopefully, he plays defense, stays healthy, and proves that he can find a spot on the roster. Because I remember a few years ago the Knicks playing the Cavs and me wondering, who is this kid? Why is this kid knocking down? Like, what is he doing? Who is this kid? You know what I mean? So, hopefully, I don't know. But I will say this. I think the Knicks saved their like they got these guys on the two-way contracts. They got guys on Exhibit 10 contracts. The guys on the two-way contracts, I believe, offer way more potential than the guys that are Exhibit 10.
Right. Agreed.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. Way more potential. And I guess that's the way it's supposed to be as well. And guys who are on Exhibit 10, I think what they're hoping is, well, guys on two ways are hoping, hey, maybe I can just straight up land this roster spot. And then guys on Exhibit 10 are like, maybe I can, if this guy lands a roster spot, maybe I can move into this two-way contract. You know what I'm saying? So I think the Knicks did a decent job bringing in these two-way guys. And they get 3 two-way guys now.
Yep.
So basically the Knicks got 18 guys that they can play on their roster. Is that what it is? I mean, every team in the league, but is that what it is? They basically got 18 guys?
That's apparently what is happening, right? You got you got 3 two-ways, and now the roster has supposed to be extended to 18. I haven't officially saw that anywhere yet. I know that I saw where they said that was going to be the case, but I haven't seen it yet. So until I actually see it, because I think we're going to be thrown off a little bit to start training camp and preseason. You can have 20 guys, right? So until I see preseason is over
Right.
and they chop it to 18 and we stick with 18,
Right.
I don't know.
But
I mean, and that's different,
that 18 includes the two-way guys, right?
right? It would
Right.
have to.
Includes the two-way guys.
Yeah, and those two-way guys, they're not going to always be on the bench anyway. So I guess that's the rationale behind it.
Yeah. Right. And those guys only get 40 play. They could play 40 whatever games or something like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. The guys that we see here, the Exhibit 10 guys, the two-way guys, the Knicks have 20 guys on their training camp roster. Do you expect all of these guys to come into camp? Because we've seen what the Knicks do, right? They sign guys and then waive a guy, bring in someone else, waive a guy, bring in someone else. Do you expect all of these guys to come into camp?
These particular guys, yes, because I mean, unless I'm wrong, I just don't know who else is out there that the Knicks could take a chance on bringing in to get a look at. And, the Knicks are already at that point where they've kind of jumped into cap restraints, right? Because of Dante's signing. I just don't know if they got any money to play around with. So
Yeah.
I think this is it. This is what it is. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to say about Dylan Windler, I will say that Dylan Windler was a much better shooter in college because he was obviously a focal point of his college team's offense. And in the NBA, I think the most he's averaged a little under 3 shots per game from 3. I think Dylan Windler needs to be able to put it up. And I don't know if he's going to get that in the Tom Thibodeau system with the allotment of minutes as well as the free flowing. Our offense isn't free flowing that
Right.
You get that type of. So I don't know, and that to me is bad because if you just look at his NBA career, his 3-point shooting, his percentages are not that great for someone who can he can shoot the rock,
Mm-hmm.
but it's limited shot attempts. Like I said, the most he's gotten was a little under 3 shot attempts per game. It's just not enough for a guy like him. He might be a little bit more of a rhythm shooter. He's got to get it up, pause. He's got to be able to shoot it so that way, that way he can kind of see it going in the rim and get that rhythm. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Tibbs learned something from World Cup. Who knows? I don't know.
And what happened, how we got smacked around by Miami, too.
Exactly. But I think Tibbs is going to look at and say, we got open shots. We didn't hit them. I think that's going to be his mindset, when he looks back at that Miami playoff game. I'm sure Tibbs has been watching all summer long, been watching film, probably watched every game 2 or 3 times, in that Miami series to break it down. You know what I mean? But those are our Exhibit 10 two-way guys. Out of all of those guys we named, who do you think gives us the best chance, or who do you think has the best chance to make the roster?
Initially, I think Nathan Knight does. I think Knight is probably the first person. If Windler was someone who was healthy and you could depend on him being out there, I would say he probably has the second best chance. And then third best to me is where it gets a little hairy, but is Jalen Martin. But I honestly, I kind of also think that Dwayne Washington Jr. has a shot because he can knock it down. He's a good shooter. And listen, if Deuce doesn't take a step forward, I don't know how much longer Deuce is going to be a Knick.
Right.
And Dwayne Washington is just the type of guy you keep on your roster. You need that extra guard. He's there. So I don't know.
Small guy that can come in and light it up, be a, microwave guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because now, if you look at the second unit, and I know you got Josh Hart and you have DiVincenzo and Emmanuel quickly, but you could tinker with the lineup a little bit in certain nights. Not that Tom Thibodeau would do it, but you could. You could tinker with it and say, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and put RJ at the power forward and let Windler play that 3 spot and see if we can knock down some shots, especially if there's a night when guys just aren't hitting shots. Or you can go ahead and just let RJ, not play with the second unit, stay with the first unit, and then play Windler at that 3 spot because Josh Hart, people feel like he can go ahead and play that 4 spot, right? And so now you still have the accumulative length out there on the floor because Windler's 6'8", right? So you still accumulatively across all players, you still got that length, and then you got a guy that can knock it down in Windler, that can knock down the 3, DiVincenzo that can knock down the 3, Emmanuel quickly that can knock down the 3, Josh Hart, who's got a hesitant trigger, but is capable of knocking down the 3 as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think Dylan Windler can have a chance if he can come in and prove that he can shoot that ball.
Yeah.
Play some defense too. Play some defense too, of course. But if he can prove he can shoot the ball, I think he might have a chance of making a roster. You know what I mean?
There's a chance.
Yeah. Other things with the Knicks. Any thoughts on Julius Randle changing his agent, moving on from CAA? Any thoughts there?
I mean, not really. I thought I had some initial conspiracy theory thoughts, but that's prior to me kind of knowing what was really going on.
Right.
I think he's just following his guy. That's the prevailing thought. That's most important. This is my guy. He was my guy for a while, and I'm rocking with him. Everything seems straight. I trust him, so I'm gonna rock with him. I'm gonna go where he's going. And the second thing, but I think we can all understand that, is that he is also not taking. There's no more discounts. So when it's time to get paid, Julius Randle's going to get paid.
There you go. Exactly. There's no more discounts. And we were, we're talking about a couple years. Well, at the end of next season, he has an opt-out, right? He has a player option at the end of next season. And I'm pretty positive that Julius Randle's going and saying, I think I can make $40 million. I want to make $40 million a year. Yep, at the end of next season, he makes $30.3 million next season. He can opt out. There's no way in my mind, there's no way that Julius Randle is going to take that $32.4 million in 25-26. I don't see it. He's going to be looking for he's looking for money. He's looking to get paid. Do the Knicks pay him? Do you think? Do the Knicks pay him?
That's all going to be depending on this season. If the Knicks go and Julius Randle can duplicate the same season he had last year, which would be great. He'd be an all-star again, one of those all NBA teams again. But if we get back into the playoffs and Julius does not show up, Julius Randle is not getting paid to stay here on this Knicks team. Now, reverse happens, and he doesn't even have to have the same season. He could give me 2 less points of offense or 3 less points of offense if he plays a better all-around game, a little bit more defense, does a little more, you know what I mean? And then goes into the playoffs, is not hurt, he's healthy, and just balls out the same way he's been balling out in the regular season, then I think the Knicks have a real choice on their hands, and I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to bring him back.
See, I think everything is going to boil down to how the Knicks are doing at the end of 24-25. If the Knicks look like they are a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference, even if Julius Randle doesn't have, this super duper playoff run or whatever, I think they might say, let's bring it back. Right? Because Jalen Brunson has an opt out the same year. And if the Knicks are top 3 team, I think they try it I think they say let's keep it going. If the Knicks are muddling at 4, 5, 6 seed, well, I'm gonna say 5, 6. 4, they might say, hey, we're in the top half. Let's see if we can get better. They're muddling around at the 5, the 5th and 6th seeds. I think they don't bring Julius Randle back at that kind of money. You know what I mean? Because I think that's the season right there where, like you can really overhaul your roster, right? Because your 2 largest contracts, well, it's not your 2 largest contracts because Jalen Brunson, he'd make 24.9 if he took his. He's not taking his.
Oh, he's definitely
he's not opting out. He's not opting into that. You know that. R.J. Barrett makes 27.7. So with that season, I mean, with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, that's possibly $56, $57 million coming off the books. You sign one of them, you got enough money to possibly, see what you can do with bringing in another guy. So I think that's the season that off season where, this roster could really drastically change.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's going to depend on where the Knicks are, how they feel the Knicks are.
The other thing that changes, I don't see it happening, but stranger things. Another thing that changes everything, Sim, is if somehow the Knicks make a move. Because if the Knicks make a move and pull off a trade, depending on who the trade is for, if they did a trade, and say a Donovan Mitchell comes in here, then I see the Knicks paying Julius Randle and paying Brunson. But if the Knicks pull off a trade, and this is because most likely he'd be included, but there's a rare chance that somehow the Knicks find a way to get like a Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid wants to be here playing with Julius. So if there's some rare way that they keep both of them, I don't know. I don't know if the Knicks can afford to, pay Julius and have Joel Embiid's contract. And I don't see them getting rid of Jalen Brunson. So I think Julius would have to go eventually either way. Right. So in essence, it probably makes most sense that no matter if there was some trade that the Knicks are going to do outside of a Donovan Mitchell or a guard type guy, I think the Knicks got to include Julius. Because in the end, if it's that high level of a talent, you're not going to be able to handle that salary, pay Brunson. You got RG on the books and pay Julius. It's too much.
Be too much. Way too much.
Yeah.
So if you're talking like a Giannis type of guy, Julius has got to go, right?
He's got to go.
He's got to go in that move, you would think. It's hard unless you're saying you're going to play Giannis at the center spot defensively. Offensively, I don't know if it matters as much, but are you playing him at the center spot defensively? I don't know. That's the only way in a coach's or the team's mind they can say this is going to work by them saying we're going to play him at the center spot defensively. Offensively, we'll now just have a team where everybody can go to the cup, everyone can handle the ball, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But I think if Giannis is on the table, Julius Randle's probably in that trade.
I think so.
Probably in that trade. So, but all that being said, the fact that, when you look at, him changing agencies, not agents, but agencies, yeah, Julius Randle's going to be looking to get paid in that offseason. And to be honest with you, I mean, he's made 2 All-NBA teams. He's been on an All-Star team twice. He's going to deserve to get the money that he gets. He
definitely deserves it.
When you look around the league, it's probably, one of the lowest paid All-NBA guys. that's out there. So, you
And
know.
it's and another thing with Randall is like his numbers aren't like just numbers. I mean, I know some fans want to point to it like because he hasn't won anything or whatever. No, his numbers like Julius has stepped up and had
Hmm.
big games for the Knicks where his numbers mattered.
Right.
It wasn't like he just putting up points when it's like no the defense is laps or it's against the bench. No, he's been balling against whoever and just getting his numbers.
And getting his, yeah.
Playoffs aside,
Yeah, playoffs
um,
aside. I
yeah.
mean, in the playoffs, he's had a couple of good games. I think against did he? I think he had a 25-point game against either Cleveland or Miami, one of the two.
Might have, yeah.
Right? I think he had a 25-point game, but I don't remember which one it was against. It might have been game one of those games versus Miami. He might have had a big game, or maybe it was Cleveland. Might have just been Cleveland where he had a big game, but I mean that's the next step for Julius Randle. You know, he's proved he can be an All NBA player. He's proved he can make the All Star team. Of course, you got players in the league that want to, be a perennial All Star or a perennial All NBA. Of course, they want to do that. But if your team wins, you're gonna get more. You're gonna get accolades anyway. If your team wins, you know what I mean. And I think his focus should be just how do I do it for the playoffs? How do I do it in the playoffs? You know what I mean? How do I prepare my mind to be able to perform in the playoffs? I think that's that's going to be the big thing for Julius Randle. That's the next step. And if he can come in, whether or not he makes the All-Star or All NBA team, but if he puts up comparable numbers and then he plays very well plays his average in the playoffs, right? Then he'll be, I think he'll legitimize himself. Because I still think there's, even obviously amongst Knicks fans, but even in the league, I think people are still like, I don't know about Julius Randle yet.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not sure about him yet. If he does it in the playoffs, he can solidify himself. Alawa said 24, 12, and 8 versus Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that was a really good game. That was a good game.
Yeah, that's a nice game. He's got to continue to do it. Right? He's got to continue to do it. See if he can. He's got to look at that game and figure out how do I replicate that? How do I do that? A couple of things I want to ask you just about. I know USA basketball is over, it's done, right? But looking at the way that Team USA finished, and Jalen Brunson being benched and this and that, any worries from you?
Not really, because I really think that I'm still under the belief right now that the Jalen Brunson that we saw with the FIBA games with Team USA is not Nick Jalen Brunson. I feel like he understood that I'm on a team with other players. Mm-hmm. All these players are talented. You got a really good point guard in Tyrese Halliburton that comes in right after me, but he can basically start just like I'm starting. So I kind of feel like he just came into the game, played his role. He had a certain number of minutes he played. And if you look at it, even in the last couple games before they were eliminated, like look at Jalen Brunson's numbers and look at how many shots he took like 9 shots per game. Like on the Knicks, he takes a lot more shots than that. We need him to, right? But it was a different role. And sometimes, playing that way, I'm not going to throw a bunch of excuses at him because he has played, playoffs and then going into the FIBA. But I just think that from what I saw, the games that I did see, he just seemed to be playing differently. It was a different role and less aggressive. Right. He was getting his shot when he got it, but it wasn't the Jalen Brunson I saw with the Knicks. So I look at that and I'm like, you can't really gauge that. So if you're looking at that and saying, this is somebody I got to worry about, I think you're not looking at the whole picture. I will say, though, one thing that does worry you a little bit, but it's a different game. So they are set up differently. You can see how he can get exposed, especially towards these teams that have bigger players. and play a little more aggressively, put him in a bad spot. But
Mm-hmm.
in the NBA, because there's so many teams that have adopted this, 3-point shooting and short, small ball options and stuff, there's not a lot of teams that are taking advantage of that. Denver, a little in between because they had a little bit of a taller team, but a lot of these teams aren't taking advantage of that. And like on Orlando, which is not ready for that next level, they might be a team you would really got to worry about, but they're just not ready yet. Who knows what happens this year? So, for the most part, I think because of the way the NBA is set up, Jalen Brunson is fine. You shouldn't have to worry about him, and understand that in his regular role, when he's a focal point,
Right.
I think you will see him get busy the way you're used to seeing him get busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Quiet Money said if you don't worry about Brunson not being able to move the needle on Team USA, then I don't know what to tell you. Not being able to move the needle. I mean, I don't know if we would have a chance to know if he was able to move the needle or not because we didn't see this particular team play without Brunson, right? So, I don't know. I'm going to say this. This is the way I feel about it with Team USA. When the team comes together, it can work for a little while, and then eventually other teams strategize and figure out your weaknesses. And then you've got to figure out how do I retaliate against the weaknesses? How do I not the weakness? How do I strategize against teams that can now focus on my weaknesses, right? You just don't have enough time to do that with FIBA basketball, right? Your team got to come in ripping and running, ready to go. And you look at some of these other teams who have, they've been together for a while and all of that kind of stuff. And then Team USA is just, throwing players out there. It takes time to figure out, okay, how does my role really fit on this team? And how do we fit well together? Like you seen Brandon Ingram struggled with his role. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't look at it just like when Team USA was doing well and people were asking, do you look at this and say, this is what the Knicks should be doing with Jalen Brunson and this and that? And I was the same way. I was like, no, not really, because we don't have those players. We're a different basketball team. His role is different. And it's the same way now. I don't look at it as, that I'm worried about Jalen Brunson. You know what I mean? That's how basketball goes sometimes. You know what I mean? Am I worried that teams are going to exploit him? I think the Knicks are probably kind of used to it and have brought him in with the understanding that teams might try to do just that on the defensive side of the ball or on the offensive side of the ball when he's playing defense, and that they had a plan in place for it, where you're talking about Steve Kerr, who just got the guy on his team, you know what I mean? And has a whole different set of players. Like if you're talking about the Knicks, when he's with the Knicks, and will teams try to post him up or exploit him? Well, guess what? The Knicks players have played with Brunson and probably know his weaknesses. So they might know, well, this is what we've got to do defensively if they try to exploit Jalen Brunson, because we've played with him for a season. And so the Knicks have probably already prepared for that. Whereas Steve Kerr and those guys probably didn't. And then you got different players who, may not be used to saying, well, we might have to help this guy out. You know what I mean? So there's just when you're playing with different teams, roles are different. You have different players. You have different schemes and a totally different coaching staff. I'm not worried about it. I'll worry about it when it starts to happen, I guess. But I'm not worried about it right now. You know what I mean? I think that the Knicks will be prepared for it. What about RJ Barrett? I don't know how much you got to see from him, but
I'm gonna say I don't think that you can read too much into what he did with Team Canada either. I like that he's playing. Well, he always does. I like that he's playing with confidence. I don't think he ever lacks confidence. And I like that we saw him step up in the playoffs, and I think he was a big part of some of the victories that we got, a key piece to what we were doing out there. Um, but I can't get past the fact that over time of the games that I did see when he was with Team Canada and the games I didn't see that I saw highlights of, he really had good games against lesser competition, against guys that didn't match up well with him, that was smaller than him, that he could bully and take advantage of. And he doesn't really get that on a night in, night out basis in the NBA. Yes, he's stronger than guys. He finds his way to the paint and can get layup opportunities, but he don't bully everybody the way he was bullying some of these guys.
Right.
So I wish I could say that I'm really encouraged by what I saw. I think the form on his jump shot looked better, but I'm just not ready to say that there's something different about him yet. All I can say, and what I have said with regards to RJ Barrett, is I feel like this is going to be his best season as a Knick.
Okay. Okay.
I think that the pressure has been mounting, and I think that he started off really poorly last year, and because of that, it might be easier for him to ascend this year and just look better.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that I really take away from with RJ Barrett is that he kind of played the same role he plays on the Knicks. And he did well. Perform. So that he shot a decent percentage from the field. Playing a similar role. So I feel good about that. Do I take and say, oh yeah, now he's gonna show out because of FIBA? No, I think if he's gonna show out, it's gonna be because he's progressing. You know what I mean? And does FIBA help? Of course that helps. But I think I'm in the same boat as you. Knicks GM said Kerr benched him, meaning Brunson, and still couldn't medal. Think about that. I'm thinking about it. And the only thing I can think of when I think about it is, does that mean the team was just not good enough? Because if you benched them and you still didn't medal, then did it really make a difference that you benched them? Now, I think he followed it up by saying Team USA is small just like us. So maybe that's what Knicks 100, a GM, was saying. They benched him and were still small. I really just think that the team didn't have any continuity. You know what I mean? And as soon as Brandon Ingram started complaining about his role, that's when you're seeing the downfall of the team.
It's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? That's when they started to, So I just think they didn't have chemistry. They didn't have the continuity. You know what I mean? I think that Jalen Brunson's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and it wasn't a well put together roster.
Yeah, it was not at all. Not at all.
Even the height that you had outside of the kid from Utah.
I know you're talking about. I can't think of his name. White guy.
Outside of him, I mean, the bigs are not really that adept. That like Portis can give you, he's an okay game, but he's not like the best rebounder. Jaren Jackson Jr., say what you will about him, all NBA defensive player of the year. He's not a good rebounder. He's a poor rebounder when you think about him historically. So you got no rebounding. You're playing up against these other teams. So that's one thing. You're not getting second chance opportunities because you're not rebounding, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the focal point of your team was not Jalen Brunson. On the Knicks, say what you will, you could say the ball goes through Julius Randle. Yeah, I think it's evenly shared between Julius and Jalen when it comes to that stuff. So he's a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
The focal point on Team USA was Anthony Edwards.
Right.
They chose to make Anthony Edwards the guy. And then, you got Jalen Brunson, you got Tyrese Halliburton, you got these other guys who was the second most, not most used, but the second guy that people kept talking about throughout the FIBA. It was the kid from the Lakers.
Yeah.
Like he was, like I just think the team,
right?
Kessler. Thank you, Jerry Fitz.
Oh, Kessler. Yeah.
Like it wasn't a well put together roster, and the way guys were used and the roles they were put in, just wasn't ideal.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's funny how Knicks fans are because when when Team USA was doing great, everybody was, oh my gosh, this is how Tom Thibodeau should be using this guy, and should be using Jalen Brunson, and just look at the difference with Tom Thibodeau and Steve Kerr. And then when they started losing, oh, Jalen Brunson is the liability. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? I just agree with Ron. His role is very different on the Knicks. You know what I mean? And if teams try to exploit him, then he has more of an ability to come back at the opposing team, which can make up for a team trying to exploit him. You know what I'm saying? Because now he can come back and get those 2 points back or 3 or put pressure on. It's different things that it's just a different game and a different way that Brunson can play when he's playing with the Knicks. I mean,
and let me just say this real quick. Sorry, Sam. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been in the league 5 years. All right. And I see, this gentleman, Joel 820 NYK, saying Jackson 24, he said historically, laugh out loud. Like, it doesn't matter if he's 24 years old. He's been in the league 5 years. He's going into his 6th year in the league.
yeah.
And if we're going to take a look at it real quick, Jaren Jackson averages total rebounds, mind you, for his career, 5.5. For the center, all NBA Defensive Player of the Year, he averages 5.5 rebounds per game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's not a good rebounder. So historically, the history of his rebounding in the league shows that he's not a great rebounder. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. That's his history in the league. I mean, right.
That's all I'm saying.
Keith Turner said, Knicks fans will flip-flop in a minute. In a New York minute. Flip-flop in a New York minute, boy. What do you think about the Emmanuel Quickly situation?
I think the Knicks have put themselves in a position, and the way things are playing out, it looks like they're going to have to pay Quickly. Quickly deserves his money.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who pays him, he deserves to get paid, and he deserves to get paid what he should get paid for his position in this league at his age and what he's doing. So it shouldn't matter who on your team or who on any other team is currently making whatever they're making. When their time comes, they're going to get what they're supposed to be paid. Right now, the salaries look a little crazy. They can look a little crazy, but it all will work itself out as time goes by. It's a new CBA and new TV contracts, and all this new money is starting to filter in. So some guys are going to get blessed quickly, like currently, and you're going to start to see disparages and the disparity in the salaries. It's going to look a little crazy because Quickly could possibly, I don't think so, possibly be getting paid more than Jalen Brunson, or at least close to Jalen Brunson, which it's not.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, but
right, he could. No, seriously speaking,
yeah.
I mean, Jalen Brunson's not making. I mean, this season he's going to make 26.3. Next season, 24.9. So yeah, Emmanuel Quickly could be making the same. I mean, listen, if Josh Hart is getting paid $18 to $20 million a year, Emmanuel Quickly is going to make that easy, right? He's a good defender and he's a better offensive player. I mean, one would argue he's just as good of a defender as Josh Hart. He's a better offensive player than Josh Hart. You know what I mean? He doesn't do those little things that Josh Hart does, but each player is going to do something a little bit different. So he's probably going to make, either similar or a little bit more than Josh Hart. Now, I guess the thing is, if the Knicks give him an extension before October 24th or by October 24th, it makes it a little tougher for them to trade him because of the poison pill. They got that poison pill.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
whenever they trade, the team they have to incur $15 million onto their salary cap. Where the Knicks are, as far as their books, they're only sending out whatever his salary is this season. So that makes it a little bit tough to trade him, which is one of the reasons why I think that, he could just end up going to restricted free agency. But also, if you trade him before, let's say he doesn't go, they don't give him his extension, and then they trade him by the deadline. Are you getting maximum value for Emmanuel Quickly in a return trade? I think that's another question.
Right.
Because,
Right.
I guess the only way to get that maximum value is if you couple him with Evan Fournier. You know what I'm saying? To bring back a player that's of, equal value. So it's it definitely becomes tricky. Do you foresee Emmanuel Quickly being on this basketball team next season?
I mean, it's tough. I think the Knicks got a lot of question marks because I really think it, and this is why, honestly, even though I just said I think the Knicks are going to pay him, and he deserves to get paid at some point. But if I'm the Knicks, I don't pay him until the season is over. Because I think they made a mistake when they gave RJ his money, and I would have preferred to let RJ play that season out and then let me really evaluate how he looked at that point, and then give him his money. Just like in the same realm as Quickly, even though you just mentioned Quickly is a solid defensive player. He has moments where he really shines on defense. He's a much better offensive player than Josh Hart, and Josh Hart got paid. I still would rather, I don't want to handicap the organization, the team, if it's going to affect me making other moves. Like the whole thing is, if we do, like you brought up the extension, I need to be able to be flexible with the team. I don't want to be handicapped. So if I want to make a move and Quickly is a piece that teams would covet, I got to leave that available until I'm moved on and I'm like, no, I'm not worried about it. Or if I'm going into the point, I mean, you do run the risk of him being, but he's a restricted free agent. So even if they wait until the end of the season, it's not like he's just going to walk away and the Knicks have a chance to match.
Right.
So I don't know. I just rather wait to see what happens throughout the season. I also want to see if Quickly can show a little bit more consistency himself. Let's not forget, he started off the season poorly himself. It wasn't just RJ being inconsistent. Quickly was very inconsistent too. And in the playoffs, he really didn't look that great. So I want these young guys to be pushed and really see what we can get out of them.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's a tough situation with Emmanuel Quickly, I guess. I think that I agree. I think the Knicks should wait until the end of the season, and then either let him go out, find out how much he's worth on the market, and then decide if you're going to match it or not. And you still might be able to do a sign and trade.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, with whoever to get whatever you can. So I think that's probably the best thing that the Knicks can do right now. You know what I mean? So I think that just makes sense. Anything else going on with the Knicks you want to talk about? I know, we're heading into training camp. The Knicks are going to South Carolina for training camp this year. They're going to be in Charlotte.
That's different.
Yeah.
I think training camp opens up October 2nd. So that should be pretty cool. I think the other very important piece that you got to look at for these New York Knicks is Quentin Grimes. I think what Quentin Grimes does is going to be very important to how the Knicks move forward. because it's starting to turn out that way because we got so many of these same type of players, the height wise, should I say, that it's starting to kind of put Quentin Grimes versus Emmanuel Quickly. Because Quickly's up after this year to get his money, but the following year Quentin Grimes is up to get his money. So it's kind of like there's only so much money that's going to go around, man, and these guys need to get paid. So I just kind of think that it's very important to see if Quentin Grimes takes that next step offensively. Does he make Emmanuel Quickly kind of obsolete, that you can move on from him? Because you already know Quentin Grimes is a good defender.
Right.
But if he takes the next step offensively and is confident in that, he could be the sticking point. Like that could be the demise of Emmanuel Quickly, especially if Dante DiVincenzo plays his role well and Josh Hart continues to play his role well.
Right.
There's just too many of these same type of guys.
Too many
height wise, and
too many of them. Too many of these guys, man. And like some people have said in the chat, it's probably the reason why you see so many of them preparing for the eventual exodus of Emmanuel Quickly. So that they can make sure, hey, we got to have some guys that can at least do part of what Quickly does. I hope that the Knicks can find a way to keep him because I do like Quickly, but I just don't see that it's going to be likely. He wants to start, all of that. Is there a spot in the league that you think where he would fit as a starter?
I think there's some teams out there that could use him, and he can be somebody that you can plug in right away. I have a team in mind, but let me just take a quick look at them because I don't want to say the wrong thing if somebody else has stepped up. But what I'm thinking of is the Sacramento Kings, for example, because I don't think that I mean, how tall is Malik Monk? He's got that, little bit of a, So I maybe not, because Malik Monk did play a really interesting role for them, and Keegan Murray is the power forward. You got some height there. Kevin Huerter is the small forward. So maybe not, but there's probably other teams out there that I could see that he can go there and be a spark for the team and play that. I would have to think about it a little more because really Sacramento had popped into my mind right away. But there's these other teams that maybe aren't going anywhere right away that you could see something where Emmanuel Quickly can go there and make a difference.
Right.
I can't think of it right now.
I mean, is there a place where he can start though, I guess? Because if he's going to go someplace and come off the bench, you might as well stay with the Knicks.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Because you would think, the reason that he would want to go someplace is so that he can start. Because he's going to get 30-plus minutes with the Knicks anyway. So you would think the reason he wants to go someplace is so he can try his hand at being the starting point guard. If he's going to go someplace and not start, I don't understand why he would leave the Knicks if he's going to get paid too.
It's tough, man, because I'm looking around the league and they got, somebody at the two guards and them three spots, but he's not a three, but the two guard spot. And I don't really see Quickly as a point guard. Like I don't see him as a starting point guard. I see him as a two guard.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe he can go to Toronto along with RJ Barrett.
Okay. Along with RJ. Josh said he can absolutely start somewhere else, no question about it. Where? That's what I'm asking for. I'm not saying he can't start in the league. right? There's plenty of players that can start in the league, but the question turns around to be where. That's what I'm saying. A team, which team does not have a point guard in place, like a point guard that they know this is our guy. Which teams do not have that guy in place, and you say, yeah, quickly can go there and be the starting guard, be the starting point guard. Because I think it's there where he's probably wants to start at that point guard spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
Ron
tough.
said Toronto. DJ Shuttle agrees. Said, yeah, Toronto with RJ sounds good for OG Anunoby. I think the Knicks doing dealings with Toronto may be tough right about now. With everything with the whole lawsuit stuff. Right? Might be a tough task.
Yeah, that part is, yeah. I mean, realistically, that's probably not an option.
Yeah.
I mean, a team where he could go and I could see him starting is probably Orlando. But not starting at the point guard, starting at the two guard. I could see him being the starting two guard for Orlando. He can beat out Jalen Suggs for that spot, and he can also beat out whoever the other person is over there. Who's the other person? Shoot. Can't think of the name. Gary Harris. Yeah, I could see quickly supplanting both of those guys and taking that starting shooting guard spot. He could even, quiet as kept, he could probably even take the starting point guard away from Markelle Fultz, because Markelle Fultz is yet to show that he can be healthy for a full season. But when he's healthy, he looked really good last year. So, and Cole Anthony, I don't know what I used to see of Cole Anthony. I don't really see as much anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think Orlando is always that spot where you could send somebody. Hey, you can get some minutes over there in Orlando.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I call flack from people when I say Cole Anthony was going to be. Can't think of his name now, but I call some flack. But I think I'm turning out to be right. He's going to be a guy that starts sometimes, depending on what team he's on, but probably comes off the bench, gives you, but can give you 15 to 17 points a game or something like that. DJ Augustine, that's what I said. I didn't like him, not in play. I didn't say in play like he plays like DJ Augustine. I was saying the kind of career that I think he's going to have. I likened it to DJ Augustine's career, and I still think that's the kind of career he's going to have.
Oh. Huh. There is some place where he can go that he might be able to start, and wouldn't that backcourt be interesting? Wow, I didn't think about that. He could definitely go there and start.
Where's that?
Philadelphia 76ers.
You think so?
No James Harden. The only person he's competing with over there is Patrick Beverly.
What about what's his name?
Tyrese Maxey?
Yeah.
He plays the two.
That'd be interesting. As long as we keep James Harden away from the Knicks. That's all. Let's keep James Harden away from the Knicks. You know what I mean? That's it. Just keep him away from the Knicks. And, just keep him away from the New York Knicks. I don't want him anywhere near the Knicks. You know what I mean? Anywhere near the Knicks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you, too, that we have, our NBK Kickoff Cookout on October the 7th. I want you to join us, Riverside Park, Coxsackie, New York, all right, just south of Albany. So if anybody here is from the Albany area, come join us. It's going to be a dope time. We're going to play some basketball, some shooting games. We got games for the kids out there. There's a family event. We're going to be doing some live podcasting and all of that. Food there, so go ahead, click on the link. I just put the link in the YouTube chat. There's also a link in the description of the video. Join us October the 7th. That's just like 2 weeks away. All right, it's going to be pretty dope. I don't know, Ron, anything else? Because I'm about to get up out of here. It's been on 2 hours. Been on 2 hours. Time flies when you're having fun, man.
It does.
Sheesh.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Anything?
that's about it.
Anything?
No, I think you covered a lot, man. I think that's about it.
Yeah. I plan on getting back on this weekend to, talk some more training camp stuff, go over some training camp position battles and, some more things as we're a week away from training camp. 1 week away. Seems like this summer's just been a long summer with not much Knicks basketball, but now we're just a week away, and I can't wait. I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for it.
You and me both, brother. I
Can't wait.
can't. I've been jumping
Can't
at the
wait,
bit. I'm
man.
like, come on, let me see something.
I'm telling you, something. But anyway,
Oh,
late. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I will. There is one thing, guys, because I forget today's Friday. If you haven't already, please do check out the NBA wrap up. Yesterday's show was fantastic. It's a little long, but it was long because it was great content. We had a fantastic conversation. The special guest yesterday was Don Michael Jr. Some of you who go on the TikToks and on Instagram may be familiar with him. He does a lot of skits where, he'll have a rapper in the booth. Like, the skit will be, working with a 42-year-old rapper. And, the rapper, will be him really. But, the skit is him talking to the rapper, trying to get him ready for the booth. And the 42-year-old doing everything but getting ready for the booth and just messing around. And then, when it's time to hit play, he hits the button and the track comes on, he's spitting fire. So yeah, it was a really good show yesterday. Not only is he a producer, he makes the songs, he makes the tracks, he makes the beats, but he rhymes, and he rhymes really well. So definitely check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
Definitely. Go check that out, ladies and gentlemen. And then tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, you gonna be on tomorrow morning?
I am going to be doing Know the Ledge tomorrow at 11, around 11:15, 11:30. Tomorrow is going to be a joint show with D's World of Hoops.
Okay.
So definitely check that out. We're going to be going over different possibilities and holes on the Knicks that they can improve on to be a better playoff team. Certain players that we can look at, to fill different holes and different roles where the Knicks may not necessarily have the best person in those roles right now.
All right. That sounds good, man. That sounds great. Well, I tell you what, if I don't have practice tomorrow, then, I'm definitely going to be listening in. If I do have practice, I have to catch the replay because I'm scheduled to practice from 11 to 1. But we are supposed to have rainstorms all day tomorrow, so practice could get canceled.
Really?
Could get canceled. It could get canceled because we're supposed to be pretty bad out, with heavy winds and things like that. We don't want people, and it's like starting 5 o'clock in the morning all day long. You know what I mean? So we don't want to send people out in bad weather. You know what I mean?
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
Did somebody just like out of nowhere? I don't know who Keyshawn is.
Oh,
just out of nowhere, Keyshawn said it. I mean, well, I'll tell you what, Keyshawn. Meet me at the cookout on October the 7th. We can make something happen. We can make something happen. You dig what I'm saying?
Keyshawn's a cool dude, man. But I didn't know he get if you get busy like that. All right,
we can make something happen. You know what I'm saying? You dig what I'm saying? Just out of nowhere, we can make something happen. Don't be the next contestant on that Summer Jam screen. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Now you made me forget what I was about. Oh, yeah, rainstorms. Yeah, so we might not have practice. We'll see. It's supposed to be pretty bad. I don't want to send people out in there. You know what I mean? I want to have practice because I'm canceling practice next Tuesday. Hopefully, I'm able to push it till Wednesday because I'm going to the Nas and Wu-Tang concert.
Oh, that's dope.
New York State of Mind
That's
tour.
dope.
I gotta get that. I gotta be there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I gotta be there. That's gonna be. I missed it last year, so it's like I gotta get to it this year. Got to get to it. It's going to be dope. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Keyshawn said, hey, Keyshawn, meet me at the cookout. And, we do what we can do. Meet me at the cookout. I put the link back in there. You know what I mean? Meet me at the cookout. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here. Please make sure you join us at the cookout. If you haven't gotten your tickets to the Knicks vs. Cavs on November the 1st, you're not going to get any cheaper tickets in the spot that we're sitting. So make sure that you get them, ladies and gentlemen. $155 per ticket, center court. I hope to see you there. Anyway, I'm out of here. Oh, the link is in the description. It's also pinned to the top of your YouTube chat. I'll throw it in there a couple more times to make sure that you got it. And yeah, I'm out of here. I will see you later on this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Be peaceful. I'm out. Get my intro up here. Peace.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.